Hey guys, welcome back. So today's video is going to be a lot different from my normal videos as far as voiceovers go. This color right here that you just saw me hold up called Tom, that color was specially made for me from the very sweet ladies at Nail Addiption when my husband passed away. So that is the only thing I'm using in this video that is not available, but I will leave links for everything else down below in the description box for you. So I'm going to get right on into this chatty video, and I want to start by saying everything that I'm going to state in this video has been very real to me. I've lived it for 15 years with my husband, so I'm not Google searching this. This is all stuff that I have learned from talking to his doctors, talking to him, talking to his family, and of course things that I experienced and saw with my own eyes and was very hands-on with. And when I say hands-on, I mean hands-on. But I will explain more about that in a bit. So it is National Diabetes Awareness Month, all month of November, but today is special and the most important in the diabetic community because as you are watching, it is Saturday, November 14th. Hopefully you're watching the day that this uploads, but today is World Diabetes Day. So it is a very important day to raise awareness about a topic that I don't think is talked about as much as it should be. And you know what kind of bugs me a little bit is we have all these awareness days for cancers and diabetes and Alzheimer's and all these things, but we don't talk about them enough. But we talk about National Pizza Day and National Coffee Day and those types of days. So as much as I, like anybody else, love pizza and tacos and coffee, I think we need to talk more about the important stuff. The stuff that we can really do more with and hopefully one day make a difference. So that's my one little pet peeve. So I hope I don't offend anybody by saying that. And I totally get that those national other days are for fun. I feel like we need to talk about the important stuff along with those fun things. So like I said, it is Diabetes Awareness Month and World Diabetes Day. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit because I feel like people are ignorant to diabetes and what is truly, truly involved. I probably will not even be able to say everything I want to say in this 30 or however long minute video this is, because it goes so much deeper than you're diabetic, prick your finger and test your sugar. It is so much more than that, and I think you will be truly shocked at what all is affected in your body by having diabetes. So there are two main types of diabetes. There's a third if you count gestational diabetes, which is women who are pregnant can sometimes develop that, and it usually goes away after they've given birth or sometime after, their child's been born. I myself have never gone through that, so I don't have a whole lot of knowledge on that. So I'm going to speak about the types that I am aware of. So there is type 1 and type 2. Me, myself, my family has been affected by both. My husband had type 1 diabetes. My grandmother had type 2. My father now has type 2. But I am more going to speak on type 1 because that is what I lived with and have the most experience on. So type 1, if you didn't know, a lot of people don't know this, but it's actually a autoimmune disease. And what happens is your immune system attacks the healthy tissue of your pancreas, therefore destroying the cells in your pancreas that create insulin. And without insulin, your body can't create the energy that it needs to function on a day-to-day basis. Type 2 is where you are insulin resistant. Your body still makes insulin, but not enough insulin to give you the energy and all the stuff that you need throughout the day. Researchers kind of go back and forth. Right now, it is still considered to be a metabolic disorder. Type 2, you were treated with, oral pills. Some are insulin that you get for type 2. But some people are able to make a lifestyle change and diet and exercise, and they see a difference in their diabetes. I know for my dad, he lost a lot of weight and started eating better and being more healthy, and he finds that yes, he still has his type 2 diabetes, but it's not nearly as bad as it was, and he finds that he can take less of his medications now. So I met my husband in my wild and crazy teen years, and he had asked me out a bunch and I kept saying no, but we became really, really, really good friends. Due to my wild and craziness, I ended up not living at my mom's house anymore. And Tom opened up his home to me. We still were not dating at the time. Our whole story is completely ass backwards. So we lived together. He kind of gave me the rundown of his diabetes and what to look for if his sugar got low and what to do in those situations. So I learned all about that when I first met him, and we were living together. I kind of lived upstairs and he had the run of the downstairs. I would go with him to a couple of his appointments, and he was prone to getting blood clots in his legs, which would require him to have bypass surgeries in his legs. So he needed one of those, but when he went and had, the pre-op testing done and they did an EKG, they found that he kind of had some abnormal findings on there, so he had to go to a cardiologist, which I'm sure is a heart doctor, and they actually found that at some point he had what is called a silent heart attack, which is common for diabetics to have. Pretty much they have had a heart attack and did not know it, did not really feel any symptoms whatsoever, but it was pretty bad. It required him to have a triple bypass, which everybody knows that is a very, very serious surgery. Some don't make it out of that. And that surgery really is what brought us together and made us get together, because it was kind of one of those situations where it really makes you think about life and what would happen if something happened to that person. Oddly, our story's weird because we never really dated. We lived together as friends for, a year, and then a couple months after his heart surgery and he was okay, we just kind of looked at each other and was like, let's get married. And I'm pretty sure nobody in my family thought that was going to work out. Well, actually, my sister played a little bit of matchmaking before that. But I'm pretty sure nobody thought we were going to either get married or stay married, but we did. So sometimes those impulsive decisions kind of work out for you. So that is a little bit of our story, how we got together. But when I say hands-on with the type 1 and the low blood sugar, my husband was very good about keeping an eye on his sugar. He tested his sugar constantly. I always made sure he had some kind of candy or something in his car, in his work bag, so that if it dropped low, he could just pop a candy in his mouth. But we definitely had some of those situations to where it would just drop so low so quickly that he really didn't have time to do anything about it. And when you're type 1 and your sugar gets that low, you're not yourself. You become lethargic. You kind of go in and out of consciousness. So for me, I always knew when his sugar was getting low because he would sweat. And when I mean sweat, you could watch the droplets just bead up out of his skin. And as soon as you wiped it off, right back at it. So that was kind of my first sign. And of course, by then I had this whole routine down to where I would have to literally pin him to the ground. I would have to sit on his chest, put each of my knees on one of his shoulders to hold him down, and I would have to slowly squirt chocolate syrup in his mouth, because obviously you can't give him food because they're sometimes passing out. You don't want them to choke on it. But we definitely had a couple, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 out of the whole 15 years that we were together, that I had to actually call an ambulance for him, and they would have to give him dextrose IV or some kind of IV with, you know, some kind of glucose or sugar in it to get his sugar up quickly. But then even that was temporary, so he would have to immediately eat a sandwich or something right after getting that. So that is pretty much a little bit about his story, but that is extremely terrifying. When you see anybody that you love, their sugar get that low to where, I mean, they're just completely not themselves. And especially us having our son, who, you know, our son had to grow up really quick. He had to mature quickly. He had to learn all of these things in case, you know, I was ever out and it was just him and Tom home. You know, my son had to know how to take care of him in the event that his sugar dropped. Luckily, thankfully, never had to. Never happened when it was just him and Gabe. So that was good. And I'm really glad that it never happened when it was just him and Gabe, because when a type 1 diabetics, when their sugar drops super low like that, they get a burst of adrenaline. Their body immediately goes into fight or flight. And I used to joke around because my husband was a small dude, maybe an inch or 2 taller than me. I've always kind of weighed a bit more than him. But man, when his sugar dropped, he turned into the Incredible Hulk real quick. He probably could have thrown me across the room if he tried to. That is why I would have to pin him down with all of my body weight on him, because sometimes he would fight you. Not like try to punch you, but try to push you off and stuff like that. So you had to, it was difficult to overpower him and at the same time focus on getting him well and back to normal. But I wanted to run through with you guys some of the other issues that diabetes causes. A lot of these my husband had. So along with just testing your sugar, it has a big impact on a lot of your other organs. Before I met my husband, he actually had already had a kidney and pancreas transplant. A couple years before I met him, his mom gave her one kidney to him, and then his pancreas he got from I believe he was a 16-year-old boy that was in a very tragic accident, I believe. A couple years ago, he got put back on the kidney transplant list. So obviously, diabetes causes kidney disease, also causes heart disease, which my husband also had. Like I said, he had a heart attack sometime right before I met him. And then he ended up having another one, I'd say about 3 or 4 years ago, when he was in the hospital having another bypass surgery on his leg. He averaged about a bypass a year. His legs always seemed to rotate. Eventually, he did actually about 4 or 5 days before he passed away. He developed a clot in his leg, and they ended up having to amputate his one leg. So Vascular disease is a big thing. He actually passed away because of a blood clot in his bowel, which caused sepsis. High blood pressure is another thing that it causes, which he had. He was on blood pressure medication for that. Nerve disease is very, very common in diabetics, especially in their feet. Their feet are extremely, extremely sensitive. Like, you could just touch the bottom of his foot and he would jump 3 feet off the sofa. So foot problems is one. Eye problems is another one. Eye disease. He could not see without his glasses whatsoever. And if you ever put his glasses on, instant, drunk goggles is exactly what sounds like. His eyes were terrible. They're prone to skin infections, and since it is a autoimmune disease, whenever they would get a cut or any kind of wound, it seemed like it took him so much longer to heal from that. Definitely healed at a slower rate than normal. Gum disease is another one. He did end up eventually having to get all of his teeth pulled and get dentures. And then there is a risk of stroke with diabetes as well. So it is definitely a lot more than just, hey, check your sugar. And when my husband was younger, he would even go to diabetic summer camps. Bet you didn't know those were a thing. They are actually still going on now to this day. They would just educate the kids. They would teach them, how to check their sugar, do their own insulin. He used to tell me that they would practice on oranges and lemons and limes and fruits like that. So that was helpful for him. But puberty was actually really difficult. He was hospitalized for a good portion of that time of his life. Because when you are going through puberty, I'm going to speak for a male perspective because that's what I know, what he told me. So we all know at that point in our life, our hormones are starting to get a little crazy and out of control. For a male, obviously it's testosterone, but what a lot of people don't know is that testosterone and those stress hormones actually raise your blood sugar. But your insulin is less effective at that time. I believe my husband said it was like 50% less effective. And then during puberty, your blood sugar actually would get really high at night and then really high in the morning. And of course, at that age, you're starting to have a lot of growth spurts. And maybe if you're, a young boy playing sports, you're trying to build muscle. But overall, you eat more, which means your body needs more insulin. But if you're diabetic, your insulin isn't working the way that it should be. So combine all those things, your body isn't getting the amount of energy that it needs. So at that point, your body starts to break down your existing fat to create some energy, which if you are familiar with the keto diet, you know that starts to produce ketones and eventually puts your body into a state of ketosis. That is actually dangerous for diabetics. You end up having to be hospitalized because it can cause you to go into a diabetic coma, which can be fatal in some diabetics. And those high level of ketones can actually be poisonous to somebody who is diabetic. It's happened in some people with type 2, but it's rare in type 2. It's definitely more common with type 1. So I just wanted to tell you guys that because a lot of people don't know that. And a lot of people really just think it's, oh, test your sugar, don't eat sugar, make sure you eat sugar. I mean, even I was ignorant to all of it when I first met my husband and he was telling me about it, and I was like, yeah, okay, test your sugar, take your insulin, you're fine. And it wasn't until that first time where his sugar got really low and I saw what it did to him that I was like, okay, this is definitely more than what I thought. And then I started going with him to more appointments and just talking to his doctors more and doing more research on my own. you know, because it was kind of one of those things, like when me and him first got together, he like sat me down and we talked about all this stuff, and he told me about, you know, how he would get a lot of blood clots in his legs, and he kind of always told me, he was like, I'm 90% sure one day I'm going to end up getting a limb amputated. He was like, it's just a matter of when. Because there's only so many times they can, you know, do a bypass on your leg or any part of your body before they don't have any more good veins or arteries to work with anymore at that point. So, I mean, it was crazy how well he knew his body, but he had lived with the diabetes so long. I mean, pretty much his entire life since, you know, the age of 3. He was strongest man I know, I'll tell you that. So I'm gonna get to the portion of the nail art. I'm not gonna say any names because I haven't spoke to her about it, but wear some blue, do a blue mani. I'm gonna leave some hashtags in the description of this video, but one of the ladies in the dip powder community, she just found out not too long ago that her little 2-year-old is type 1 diabetic. So gonna leave some hashtags down below, so if you want to do a mani and post it on Instagram or something, be sure to put a couple hashtags in there and show some support for her and her family. To say I'm heartbroken for her is an understatement. Like, I'm tearing up just thinking about it, because I know what it's like. I mean, I don't know what the juvenile part of it's like, but I know how bad it can be, and I know how serious it is. So I'm praying for her and I'm heartbroken for her, but show some support for just anybody. If you know somebody who has diabetes, just rock some blue today for them. So hopefully I didn't bum anybody out too much, but I just wanted to do my part and spread some knowledge on diabetes, because it is so much more than what you expect it to be. I could go into detail so much more about issues that we had. I mean, we spent every year in the hospital, every single year, even if it was just for a couple days. There was usually always something going on. But yeah, so that is my little story. I don't want to bum you guys out anymore by saying too much more stuff about my husband, because it was sad. He definitely fought his whole entire life, literally whole entire life. So if you have made it this far, thank you so much for actually listening to the whole story. Again, I really hope I didn't bum anybody out too much. But I just feel like it needs to be talked about more than what I even just did. So I am using this Calligraphy Nail Art Pen thingamajig that I got off of Amazon. Just wanted to try it out and see how it worked. It's going to be a little weird because I did my first 4. I was intending on doing my thumb off camera because I was going to put a bad word on there. I was going to do the F diabetes, but I decided not to. So I did those 4. I top coated them, then I did my thumb, which I'm going to show you how I did the nail art designs on my thumb, but I didn't show doing the top coat. So I'm going to go and stop talking for now and let you guys watch me finish up the nail art, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I just did some simple little ribbons and some polka dots on these blue nails. Blue is obviously the color for diabetes. Any shade of blue, just rock some blue today. So I'm going to go ahead, get these top coated, but I want to do more videos like this. So if there is anything that is important to you, leave a comment down below. Whatever you want, any kind of month, if you want me to do a certain awareness month, Mani, I will definitely do some research if I am not familiar with it. I definitely plan on doing a bunch more because even though it was type 1 diabetes that pretty much caused all of my husband's issues, you know, he still had the kidney disease and the heart disease and all those kinds of things, and he was a organ donor recipient. So I definitely plan on doing maybe even a whole series of awareness videos because it needs to be talked about. So let me know if you think that's a good idea, if you would be up for watching those videos, listening to those kind of videos. Definitely let me know. And like I said, if there's anything that is important to you and you would like to see me do a awareness video for you, let me know and I will totally do that. I may even do one for endometriosis because that's something that I suffer with, but I'm going to get these top coated, going to cure them for 60 seconds. I did go ahead and cure my thumb as well, as you can see, and this is my diabetes awareness Mani. So definitely let me know what you guys think. I'm going to go ahead and apply my Candy Skincare Cuticle Oil as I always do. Just so you know, I did the dots with these circles because the circle is the diabetes symbol. So that is why I did a circle. I might even do a Christmas wreath like that because I think that turned out really super cute. So I am, of course, going to add some reveal photos as well as a couple pictures of my hubby. If you're interested in donating, I'm going to leave links to the 2 foundations that I like to donate to down below in the description box. So thank you guys so much for listening and watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye, guys.